Mr. Hudson here. Thought I'd make a quick chalk talk for our 21.6 lesson. If you are in Math 7, that will be topic 12 instead of topic 21. Kind of just flip your numbers around there. So we will come back to this if there's time and we want to do it during class. So just go ahead and skip that section. We want to start right here on our first example. So if a jeweler left instructions for an assistant, as we see here, to cut a frame with 5 sides, we see it's going to be a 5-sided shape, so pentagonal or pentagonal, depending on how you want to put that emphasis. We see that the top of the chain should pass through an angle that has 108 degrees. The 2 sides that make 108 degrees should be ½ an inch each, so both those sides will be the same. So take a second to draw what shape you think we would be able to make that would match those criteria. And if there's multiple shapes, go ahead and take a second to draw both of those to see the options that we have, because the jeweler was not 100% specific enough for what we would need to actually show that. So pause the video, take a second, draw those 2 shapes. As I start drawing these, I just want to think about, first off, my 5 sides, so that kind of gives me a little bit of idea as I go into it of what things are going to look like. So I'm going to make my 108 degrees at the top, so approximately make that 108 degrees. If you have a protractor, that would help. I'm going to label that that's ½ an inch and that's ½ an inch. And then I don't really know where to go from here. All I know is I could have the top like this, or but the bottom I know nothing about except there's 3 more sides. So I could just go ahead and make this look like a pentagon and make my bottom look like that. I could also, though, have the same top, that same 108 degree angle, that same ½ an inch here and ½ an inch there, and then my bottom could actually look like this. So because the jeweler was not 100% specific, I really actually have 2 options here for what this might look like. And actually I have even more options than that, but it gets a little crazy beyond that. So we really would only look at those 2 main options. Moving on to our next situation, we want to now say, how could the jeweler have been more specific to make sure he got exactly what he wanted? The assistant drew sketch A, but the jeweler was actually expecting sketch B, so what other details could the jeweler have provided to get sketch B instead? So take a second, pause the video, think about that one, and then come back for that answer. So pause the video. One thing I look at here that makes a difference between A and B is this top point. So one other detail that I could have added is the top of the triangle meets, or lies, we could use a more mathematical term there, lies at the, and if we're in the middle of the top of the square, we're going to call it the midpoint of the square. We could have also said that the triangle is inside of the square, but if we only said the triangle was inside of the square, that could have made for some weird shapes. I could have had some weird options like this or something like that. So we again want to be specific of where things go. We could also say that because what I see right here, the base of my triangle and the base of my square, we could say that the bases are parallel, and we can just use my symbol there for parallel. So any of those details, and there's more details that we could use, but any added details that would let my assistant know exactly what we were looking at. Now we're going to have some questions like this on our mastery, and this is actually really what we care about when we get into woodworking or any kind of shop applications. If we want to cut this wood box that we have into a smaller one and then reseal it, we have to look at what sides are going to be maintained and what sides are going to be lost. So I say I want 12 by 8 by 4. I've got a 4-inch. So I'm going to keep the 4-inch. I've got an 8-inch. Need to go back to my highlighter. Got an 8-inch, so I'm going to keep this 8-inch. The 12-inch is the side that I don't have, and what I have is a side that's longer than that. So in order to turn my 16 into 12, I'm going to travel about 12 inches down the side, so maybe about there. And I'm going to make a cut that, remember, my cut has to be parallel with the other edges, so that edge has to be parallel with this edge. My bottom edge across here has to be parallel with my front edges or my back edges or any of those. Oop. And my edge over here has to be parallel with that left and right side. And then across the top has to be parallel with the other edges, like the back edge or the front edge there that we see parallel. So approximately that's what my cut would look like. If I wanted to draw it and actually look at the two-dimensional shape, I could draw it all solid and kind of fill it in. So what I see is I'm going to get a rectangle. So when I pull that rectangle out, I see that that will have a width that matches my front side right here. So that width is going to be 8 inches. And that height is going to match the height right here, or if I come over here, I see that height is 4 inches. So to close the box, we're going to use the two dimensions that we preserved. We don't bother with the dimension that we changed because my 16 got cut to become a 12, but that has nothing to do with closing the box because this area right here is all that we need to cover. Go ahead and try this one on your own. We want to cut the same box, but now cut it into a 16 by 6 by 4. So again, look at what we have and what we can keep, what we need to change, and then how would we close it. So 16 by 6 by 4. Pause the video if you've not done this on your own yet. We've got a 4-inch that'll stay, we've got a 16 that'll stay, and we've got an 8 that's going to change. So we used my 4, we're going to use my 16. We need to cut my 8 into a 6. So since we need to cut that shorter, I'm going to cut maybe about there. If I try to visualize this, I could cut it in half and then cut it in half again because I know that would actually be 2-inch segments. So if I cut there, that'll cut 2 inches off. So again, my front side would need to be parallel with that left edge. Coming back, I need to try to stay parallel with that left edge across the bottom here. That's what I'm trying to match. As I come up the back, I'm trying to stay parallel with that. So as I come up, that dotted line, and then across the top I can see it so it becomes solid. So again, sorry about that. The space that I'm going to cover is going to be a rectangle, but when I look at the dimensions of that rectangle now, what's the height of it? That's going to be 4 inches because this height shares the height right here, and then the length of it, sorry if this confuses you with the colors, that length is going to be the same as the length right here, which is actually going to be our 16 inches. So remember, we're not using the new dimension, we're using the dimensions that we were able to preserve. Now this is where it gets a little funky, and I'm going to switch back into digits to be able to move some things and match up with this. So when we look at buildings, like cross sections of buildings, I've got 3 buildings here all next to each other, and I want to say what cross section matches what level. Well, if I look at the top level to begin with, what I see is that this pyramid at the top creates for a shape that gets smaller and smaller as it goes towards the top. So when I look at this cross section right here, and I know that's going to be smaller than the rest of the building, let's compare the left side of here, the left side of here, and the left side of here. I see this bottom one has the smaller top. Let's see if the rest of it would match. The top over here will be the entire rectangle. I've got the entire rectangle. And the top here is going to be missing what I call the elevator shaft. I'm missing the elevator shaft right here. So that is actually the cross section of the top level of the building. Where we have the cross sections drawn, that is where that would be. Moving on to my middle level. My middle level, as I come over to the left, my middle and my bottom level actually look to be identical. My middle level here involves kind of this passway that might let sun into the building or whatever it's there for. It's open, so my drawing is a little sloppy. I apologize for that. But we see we would cut through the building there, and we would cut through the building there. But in between those two, there's nothing. There's like an open... I used to call it like an atrium, kind of. Might just let sun in. Over here, we still have the elevator shaft. So we have to see what cross-section would match that. Hopefully we identify it's this cross-section right there. And the only one that we have left, both bases at the bottom for my left buildings are full rectangles. And then over here, I'm missing the elevator shaft. So if we move on to the got it, try to draw your vertical cross-section of these three buildings. So take a second, pause the video, and draw that cross-section. Because my artistic skills are lacking, I'm going to show you what I would do and then what the real precise answer is. So I see that for my pyramid up here, I'll have a triangle. For the bottom section, I'll have a rectangle. Over here, I'm going to have a rectangle, but I'm missing that little atrium.
Could I please have Evan Bodie to the office, Evan?
And where I'm looking at my elevator shaft, I've got two sides of the building on the left and the right of it. So if I clear those away and show you what it really looks like nicely, that is what the nice, neat cross-section would look like. Let me pop back over to the notes and check if there's anything else. So we have a couple extra problems here at the bottom. Really quickly, pause the video, take a second to try to think through these two problems, then come back and let the video play to get your answers. I see that on the top level here, I'm missing my middle building. It's not tall enough, so this would be my top level. As I work my way down, my middle level would have a section for the middle building that deals with the fact that it's a pyramid. So this would actually tell me that this is my bottom level, because this center section matches up with the fact that maybe that's like a car wash or something that you could drive through at the bottom. And that leaves that this must be my middle, because this is the actual section that we see cutting through the roof. And in my opinion, that outer rectangle around there should be gone. If we move on here, we want 2 by 4 by 3. So we notice 6 is what I do not keep, it's what I cut. I'm actually going to cut that straight in half. So to make this a 2 by 4 by 3 box, we could try that. Now the other plans call for a 1 by 4 by 6. So 2 by 4 by 3, my first plan right here, that would work. It'll get me 2 boxes of the same size. Now if I draw my 1 by 4 by 6, well, 1 by 4 by 6 would chop right here horizontally, and again I would still make 2 equal boxes that have the exact same volume, same surface area, all that stuff, since they share the same dimensions. So either of those plans would actually work out for this. That is all I have for 21.6. So please make sure that if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you let me know. Aside from that, hopefully you are ready for your mastery.